of the boomers, and I know that's probably an incendiary talking point in this particular group. Uh, these, they're talking about more money sort of being funneled again away to sort of BlackRock-owned retirement institutions. And what's all that to say? All that to say is I do like to be emphatic about what we can control. I like to try and direct energy towards what we can do. And you look at this march and this great sort of energy, this beautiful, true blue energy that sort of comes out. And the problem is, it's there, but you need to bottle it. You need to direct it. It needs a place to go because, as we've discussed, it's not going to come out on the ballot. What we have to do when we're there is you find people you like. You find people that come from where you come from and you get together with them. Don't just turn up on the day, all be best mates and then go your separate ways. When you are there on the day, and make friends that stay friends, people that share your world feeling. And that's one massively imperative thing. It's a huge positive that they cannot take away from us. I made a tweet earlier saying that one of the reasons that we are going to win, and I genuinely believe this. And look, it could take a Balkan route. It could be bloody messy. It's perfectly possible. But the reason we will win is because something always beats nothing. And it's taken them 100 years to tear apart the the social, the cultural, and the political bonds that have bound us together as Australians. It's taken them 100 years to make this absolute squalor, and it may very well take another 100 years to build it again. But here's the thing: blood and soil and hearth and home and belonging will always going to be stronger than some weird, distant coalescence of gay space communism, some vague notion of, hedonic presentism. And so, everyone here, we're in this fight. It 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 could go a lot of different ways, but yeah, take the small things and make them real. That's my message.
No, I agree with that. It's a good message, and you work on what you can control, and you talk about the networking, and that is very important to me. When I look at, because I believe we need regime change, and whether that's soft or hard revolution, that's going to be uh, time will tell. But the only way, if you look in the last 250 years, there has been revolutionary change, is when what I call the second estate get involved. The people who will be at the march on the 19th and the 31st, if you look at it through the prism of the French Revolution terminology, will be the third estate, the taxpayer, what would be referred to as the commoners, the peasantries, the proletariat, however you want to phrase it. Yeah. So the third estate will be there. The third estate will never be able to bring change on their own. That will only come, in my assessment of previous regime change when it's happened, is when the second estate come on board. The second estate being those with money, influence, the big corporations, the systems of the arms of government is in imposing laws and bylaws. So when they come on board and join with the third estate, you can then start to bring change in the first estate. The first estate, which are the legislature, those who currently have power, and they are untouchable at the moment because they know that us as the third estate are powerless. And COVID showed that. We had hundreds of thousands of people on the street, and it meant nothing to them because the second estate didn't come on board because they played along. And at some point, whether it's in 12 months or 20 years, there are going to be members of the second estate who realise that their grandchildren's future is more important than their stock portfolio, and they will get involved. And I honestly believe that that will come. And it gets back to natural order. Natural order will return. It's just a matter of how that manifests. And that's, as I said, it's going to be very interesting to see.
Um, could I offer a mild disagreement, with respectfully?
Sure, this is what it's about, mate. A dialectic. We need to hear both sides. And if I'm wrong, and I love to take on opposing opinions.
Sorry, try and make it a little bit quick though, just because we've got two hands now as well. But
Okay.
yeah, give your
I'll,
argument discount.
I'll be speedy. I think mechanistically you're entirely right as in terms of how it works. I don't think the assessment of the exact moment in history is correct. I think the people presently of the Second Estate are true believers in the current order. We don't seem to have an elite that like the Americans have that's happy to sort of take sides with the Third Estate. However much of a Pyrrhic victory that may or may not be, which is kind of why I kind of take this branding angle that we are, at least for the moment, and you certainly gave real estate for that. It might take 10 or 20 years, but for the time being, we are on our own and we do need to fight like it. And yeah, that's me. I got to run, you lovely people, but I'll be back on it a bit later. I got to put the kids to bed. So
All right. Cheers, mate. And I mean, I regard the Victoria Police as the second estate. Yeah. And throughout COVID, I had a lot of interactions with them, and I could see the disillusion and the questioning in many of them. And that they weren't ready at that point to start pushing back. They should have been questioning Wayne Gatt. They should have been standing up or asking why they weren't being represented. They were treated, they treated us very poorly, but they were treated poorly themselves by their leadership. They need to understand that their leadership were the enemy. So when Victoria Police or some of the army or whoever it is start to understand again the enormity of what we are facing, that's when it'll come. In my opinion, only. And again, the timeline. That's something that we are. We'll all find out in due course, but no one knows.
All right. We'll go to the next hand, but I just wanted to let people know as well. I can see that there's a request, but I can't actually see anyone asking, like requesting in the list. So if you've been requesting and you haven't been accepted or brought up, please try and leave the space and then come back in and request the mic again. Now I think it was
My hand
Matthew.
up because I had my hand up.
Pardon?
Sorry, I had to do that thing. I had to leave and come back, and I've put my hand up, but I wasn't sure if it was up or not.
Oh, yeah, it is up. I think you're second. So we've got Matthew Byrne first, and then you're up next, and then Carl. So Matthew Byrne, go for it.
Mine's more of a brief question, but it's kind of how there's kind of like a lot of division in the media pushing it too. How can we create ways of creating unity? Because once the unity's broken, the more broken it is, it's harder for us to fight back. So, what are some strategies we could use to kind of bring us together?
Well, that's a difficult question. Again, I watched the fracturing of the freedom movement, for 5 years, and you will never get. And I see continually the narrative of we've all got to come together, but that will never happen because there are too many opposing worldviews. You have to have, just in my assessment, you have to have a strong set of values that will get enough people to support to bring change. We are never going to see eye to eye on people who have who believe Marxism is the correct social condition. You're never going to agree with those people, and that's going to be a significant portion of the population. You've still got 30% of people who vote Labor, and again, it doesn't really matter whether you go Labor or Liberal. They're two wings of the same bird now, but there's always going to be division. You just need to get enough people on who believe in your worldview to then bring change. That's the way I see it. I don't expect everyone to agree with me. I don't, I've got no illusions about the division that's in society. Again, I saw it during the protest movement at COVID. It was never going to work. And my gut feeling told me that, but I was so angry at what the government had done, I supported it for as long as I could.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Paperclip Matt, you're up next.
Yep, that's Paperclip Clippy from Microsoft. Because I think there's a Clippy thing, Right for Repair, Lewis Rossman on YouTube. So it's like a Clippy thing, Right to Repair. Anyway, so March for Australia, definitely on board with that. So the main concept, Australia is full, opportunities for Australians, not foreigners, housing opportunities, all that kind of stuff. The only criticism I have is that I think less oi, oi, oi chanting and all that kind of shit, less punch ups, because that's bad optics. and more waltzing Matilda singing and walking instead of marching, if you want to get like media attention and shit. But I don't know, just the oi 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 things always kind of annoyed me. Yeah, I think in terms of democracy and all the regime change and democracy and all that kind of stuff that we've been talking about, I reckon the best way to deal with this is just to do a non-vote, and then all the non-votes, they should add them all up, and if the majority is 51%, then they should abolish the electorate. And but the problem is they don't count the non-votes. So on the night they're not saying, oh, the non-vote is 50% or whatever. But if they count the non-votes, that'd be, and they go 51% chose not to vote, that shows the system has no legitimacy, and then therefore the electorate can be abolished, and we can set up a voluntary system or whatever kind of system you want, where if you want a road, do a GoFundMe, vote with your money, vote with your phone, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I reckon.
Oh, but we know that's never. We know they're never going to do that. We've got to look at the best result would be a form of direct democracy, similar to what Switzerland does. Whether that's achievable, time will tell. Then they're not going to look at 51% non-vote. We're going to change that.
I just say, mate, Switzerland's 9 million people. We're like 27, 28 million people. And they don't spend hundreds of millions of dollars on referendums like we do. And I don't know why we spend so much on referendums, and Switzerland get to vote constantly all the time, like every 3 or 4 months. And we can't vote just like on our phone or whatever, or however they do it, postal votes. They probably do postal votes. But for some reason,
some of the cantons, they still do raise your hand voting, and they don't. When you say when they vote, they have an election cycle, but they have citizens initiatives and citizens referendums where if you get 50,000 or 100,000 signatures, you can actually change the constitution in Switzerland, and that's why they have had a much better result and a much better standard of living, and they have managed to remain homogenous as well, pretty much homogenous. So whether they get caught into the global mass immigration thing, that will be very interesting to see. They are still corrupted to a degree.
There's always a certain amount of corruption. I just say they're all armed as well, and there's not mass shootings or anything like that. So that's another positive of the Switzerland system.
Well, that's also the demographics as well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, can I just add as well to the start of your question? I agree with the chants. The first time around, we were so underprepared with chants and stuff to sing out in the crowd. So yeah, everyone relied heavily on Aussie, 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 oi, 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 and it does get old. I think it's a classic chant that should still be used, but if you look on the March Australia pages, there are new chants. So there's different things that go for.
Albo has to go. That's my chant.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of Albo related ones on there. So yeah, go have a look. I might even try chuck it in the jumbotron up the top. And but yeah, definitely we're looking at more chants.
Yeah,
keep Albo as a wanker.
That's fair enough. I'm not really.
Yeah, that's in there, I think.
I'm not really a chant guy, but if people want to do chants, I've got no problem. I'm just not me. I'm a little bit probably a slightly different generation of that. It's all good.
I'm actually with you, Matt. I'm not much of a chant guy either, but it's what the people want, so we're doing it.
That's all right.
So yeah, guys, it is actually up in the Jumbotron, the list of the most requested chants. I get it. Matt's not a big chanter. If Judy, you're in here, freaking Judy, get on the megaphone and start the chants in Melbourne. Next up, we've got Carl. I think Carl, and then Sydney.
Can you hear me?
You sound a little bit far away.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, we can make out what you're saying.
Yeah, look, I just wanted to go over a few little things. Basically, I'm a very simple man, and I think we shouldn't complicate all of this. We just want to get together, and this is partly why we're getting together, apart from the fact that we're proud Australians and we're patriots. We know we're up against something far bigger than this Australian government. This is a worldwide, one world government trying to push in every area. And unfortunately, our country, along with Canada and others, UK, have got the first brunt of it. Thank God that the Trumpian-style Americans are still holding the banner. But so we're up against a very, very, very big pushback against us, patriots. But that's why it's so important to march, to show the enormous numbers. And I think this will be highly successful. But we've just got to keep it really simple. It's simply that we don't want all of these people coming in until we can get our own selves and our own young people be able to be housed and get it back together. But this is going to be a worldwide thing. We've seen it in the UK. We've seen marches right across, and we have to do it. And as far as I understand, Albo is going to meet Trump the next day. So big numbers will be great because Trump will notice that as well. And the other thing, or two other things actually, but one of the things is that I've always felt that why on earth is Australia the only place that I can think of that you get fined if you don't vote. Now, if it wasn't compulsory voting, which I think is total bullshit and certainly against any democracy that I can think of, then the people that really wanted to vote would be the people that would have a more personalised, they would want to go out and they would do it. All of these other deadheads that vote Labor constantly because their grandparents did would certainly not want that. When they didn't need to, they wouldn't even go. So if there was one change that needed to be made in Australia, to me, it is don't make it compulsory. I don't think even New Zealand's compulsory. England's not compulsory. America's not compulsory. This is ridiculous. This is one of the worst things that we've had in Australia for forever, since I can remember. I have had to pay money because I didn't go. I couldn't go. I wrote a letter in, but they still fined me.
Yeah, they only fine you.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry to interject.
Anyway,
I just said they only fine you $20. It's still $20. It's been $20 for the past 20 years.
It's much more than that. I got fined like 10 years ago. It was over $200.
What, for not voting?
It's
It's
a
$20.
lot more. No,
Oh,
no. I think it's over 300 now. Anyway,
okay.
and the other
I
point,
just turn up and do the ritual anyway. You just don't actually vote, but they force you to do the voting ritual. But yeah, anyway, sorry to interject.
totally non-democratic idea of compulsory. The word compulsory has nothing to do with democracy. And where in the world is it like that? Anywhere else? Can you think of anywhere? I bet there's some shit-ass countries somewhere that does it that way. We're the only country. But the other thing, of course, is the biggest part that's going to keep us connected across the world. We're all patriots, and there is an enormous collective of patriots across the world now. We're going to win this. I know we are eventually. The deep state are falling apart. I mean, they really are. I mean, Ireland and
Carl.
And Scotland have now said they don't want to get into that digital ID. That's going to crumble. But more than anything, if you haven't found God yet, look for it.
Carl, can you do us a favor and just share that in the group?
Tyrone, look,
Are
mute your mic.
you there, Beck?
Hang on, what sort of backyard amateurish?
All right, sorry, I muted everyone because I don't know if anyone can actually freaking hear me. Look, Carl was speaking. Tyrone, keep it shut for now. If you've got a question, put your hand up. Carl will be done soon, I'm assuming. We've still got two other hands as well. So Yeah. Also, while I've got you listening, I've apparently got 4 requests. I can't see any of them at all. So if you were requesting, I'm really sorry. The space was doing this last night as well. I might have to bring another co-op to see if we can get them to let them up. I'm not sure what to do. Sorry. But yeah, Carl, do you want to wrap it up?
You there?
Yep, we got you. Yeah, are you still there, Carl? Or
Can you hear me, Beck?
I can hear you, Matt.
Okay, here am I. Well, my points were compulsory voting is ridiculous in Australia. If it wasn't there, all of us would go out and vote and we'd overwhelm the lefties that are just there to vote what their parents voted, or the few blue hairs that want Labor, but they would lose. If that wasn't compulsory, we would win it. I do believe, like in America. And God is the most important thing, and you have to find God. But that's all I need to say. Good night.
All right, see you, mate. Well, I mean, I've given my opinion on. I'm getting a lot of feedback, Beck. Can you hear me clearly, or?
Yeah, I think it was when Carl's mic was on. But yeah, I can hear you all good now.
Yeah, I've given my opinion on voting. I have a slightly different perspective than that last gentleman, and yeah, under the current system, I won't say anymore.
All good. All right. Jesse, you just chucked your hand up. Jesse, go first as co-host, and then Sydney, you're up.
Yeah, I'll just say, I think, yeah, we have seen spaces glitching out a lot. Spaces are glitchy on a good day. And I have heard a bit of feedback with microphones. And I think the problem is it's when multiple people have their microphone open at one time. And then especially when people talk over each other, it just cancels out noises and makes muffled noises. So like everyone, if everyone just tries to when you're not talking, mute your mic, and then don't try not to talk over people, all that kind of stuff, and then hopefully that'll minimise all the glitches. But yeah, anyway, we'll go back to hands. Cheers, guys.
All right, Sydney, you're up.
Okay, hi. My name's Daniel. Firstly, thanks for having me. I think these chats are of paramount importance, and I think it's great that everyone gets together and talks about this. Just piggybacking there on Carl's point, I certainly think voting's an issue, but I would actually take it one step further and say that I really think that voting shouldn't be reserved for everyone. I think part of the problem that we're having, certainly with immigration, is that any Tom, Dick, or Harry can vote without a stake in the country, and I think that's a real big problem because it's voting against the interest of people that one own land or two have families and have a stake in the future. So, I know this may sound like a radical idea, but I think we should reduce voting to people who either own property, own businesses, or have families and children, and therefore have a stake in the future. Um, beside that point, and we can discuss that point because I realise that's probably controversial, but going back to a couple of gentlemen before who mentioned that the ultra progressives or the communists or whatever you want to call them are a minority, a vocal minority to be sure, but they are a minority. But I guarantee you, as time goes on, and we see a demographic change, we're not too far now from the boomers, without putting it too bluntly, dying off, and Generation X, followed by the millennials, followed by Gen Z, are much more divided in terms of left and right than my parents, and I assume a lot of your parents were. So that movement that seems fringe at the moment is within the next 2 to 3 decades is going to become a lot stronger, and I think that poses a big threat to our democracy and to our core Australian values, which I'm assuming that a lot of you here share. And I just want to know what you guys think of that.
Well, yeah, I agree. That's what I talked about earlier about an educated voter base. And they should also be educated on our history and our culture as well. And that's why the current system is so. When you talk about the change of demographics on current birth rates, in 17 years, people of European heritage will be a minority in this country. And then over the next 20, 30, 40 years, there will be minorities in every country founded by Europeans, whether it's the United States, Canada. Australia's got we did have the highest rate of immigration in the world. We are now second to Canada. Canada's overtaken us. So there is an acceleration happening, the demographic changes, and so we have a finite timeline to change things and to protect our culture and identity, and that is, it was on the flyer that the two most important things are protecting our culture and identity by stopping mass immigration.
Absolutely, and look, to add on to that, I think it would take a lot of impetus away from the Labor Party, who rely on those votes, and that is a big reason for mass immigration, because they know damn well that if they get immigrants in, then the majority of immigrants are going to vote Labor, and trying not to speak generally and sound that buzzword bigoted, but you know I, I, immigration is a mass immigration, I should say, is a big problem, not only facing Australia but also facing the United States. It's facing Europe, certainly Canada as well, and a big part of that is because these left-wing politicians rely on voters that are immigrants, and a lot of them come in. They're starting their lives, but they have no stake in the country, and that's my point. I think people that should vote should have a stake in the country, whether it is through property, the ownership of property, whether it is through the ownership of business, whether it is through family and children. I really think that that's something that we're going to have to look at in the future. And yeah, I understand how controversial that idea is, and I don't think that's going to be easy to implement. But I would say, in terms of leadership, we really are in the we're about, I say we're about 7 years typically behind the UK in terms of politics. And we of course know what's happening in the UK at the moment. It's a absolute shitstorm, and we don't want to end up like that. And I think we need a strong voice. And I'm wondering, I'd like to ask you guys, do you think that there is a strong voice in Australia at the moment, who can, lead us to the light, so to speak?
Not in my opinion, not in the political class.
What about young, is it Matthew Hastings?
No, he's compromised, mate. He threw Ben Roberts-Smith under the bus.
Right.
You can't accept that, mate. You send men off to war, then punish them when they get back.
Right.
No.
Right.
So no, there's not one politician in this country who is saying the right things regarding demographics. There's not
So
one.
do you think
Both sides of parliament, none of them. One Nation, Liberal, Labor, none of them.
So do you think we need to think outside the box in a way. We need to perhaps mobilise outside of politics and get, because social media, of course, now is more influential than the mainstream media, and increasing, by the second. So does there need to be a leader in the media that champions such causes?
But they won't. That's the whole problem, mate. The political class, the media class, they don't have the moral fortitude to do it, and that's sad, but it's the way it is, and that's why I said earlier, you've got to look outside the system for now, for when the reset comes. Now, the political class have totally betrayed us. If you look at high treason, which is the committing of a crime that seriously endangers the safety or security of your nation. So we've got governments committing high treason because they're putting our security at risk by selling off our assets to potential future military threats. China, Port of Melbourne, Port of Darwin, Port of Newcastle, biggest port in the world, 33 hospitals, 12 power stations, 19 energy companies. They're selling off our assets to potential future military threats. They are committing high treason, and they're putting the safety of the citizens at risk, the most important role of government, providing a sustainable future and the safety of the citizens. So they're bringing in demographics that are committing crime at a higher rate. And we all see it every day. We see machete attacks. It's endless, yeah? So we know the problem. They know the problem. So they are committing high treason. This is beyond question because they're putting the security and the safety of this nation at risk. Now, in America, high treason still carries the death penalty. In Australia, it's life in prison. But they receive absolutely no. It's absurd, mate. And this is not rhetoric. They are putting our safety and security at risk.
How full disclosure, I'm from Sydney, but I obviously keep a close eye on Melbourne. I've visited Melbourne many times, and I love Melbourne. How safe? And I'm assuming a lot of you are from Melbourne. How safe do you feel in Melbourne at the moment?
Well, personally, you've got to look at the macro level because crime's going up. Every 3 months, the CSA release their crime figures, and I speak on this in public. And every 3 months, I've got to adjust what I say because it gets worse. Every 3 months, we are now experiencing the highest levels of crime in recorded history in Victoria. You've got 22 home invasions a day. As I said, it's if not weekly, it's daily machete attacks. Retail theft, everything is up every 3 months, and I look into it. But what they won't tell you, which is astonishing to me, is the increase in sexual assaults. Because according to the ABS, sexual assault has gone up every year for the past 13 years. In 2021, it was a 13% increase. 2024, 11%. So you have a 24% increase in sexual assault in Australia in a 2-year period. Highest level in recorded history of sexual assaults. And there is a direct correlation with immigration. But the government won't tell you the ethic breakdowns of those committing crimes. They stopped that in 2018. So up until 2018, we knew that. We don't know anymore. So we are left to assume. So they perhaps have a responsibility to tell us why we are experiencing rises in sexual assault. Because I tell you, a country that won't protect its females is a broken society. This is our most precious thing, is our most vulnerable, and the government are choosing to ignore because these figures are publicly available. They tell you about the violent crime. Yes, terrible, lives ruined. They won't tell you about the increase in rape. In Victoria, in the 12 months to December 2024, there was a 25% increase in rape in Victoria, a 68% increase in sexual offences against children, and that got absolutely no media coverage. And that to me is unforgivable, because we need to know. We need to find out why. And if someone can say, "Oh, it's nothing to do with the highest level of immigration we've had," it's not. And I can say, "Okay, show me the evidence, and I'll accept that." Until they do that, I'm going to be left to think, well, we have a problem.
Well, and of course the reason is because it's the fear of being called anti or Islamophobic or whatever the case, whatever the the buzzword slur may be. How long do you think that caper can last for? Because I think people are already getting a bit fatigued, certainly here in Sydney. How's the feeling in Melbourne?
Oh, it's the same. Every young man I speak to on site, I'm a builder, is disillusioned.
Hmm.
They're gutted by what's happening, and unfortunately, most would just give up and hand. You know, what sort of lives are we leaving for our grandchildren? You know?
Hmm.
Because and I honestly wish I was wrong, but every time I look at something, I go, well, this is just I can't get my head around it. Why are they allowing it to happen? And 5 years ago, when they started implementing these tyrannical COVID lockdowns, I thought it was all over them, and I will never understand how they got away with it then. And it's still
Hmm.
going on. It's worse now because lives are being ruined. People are
Well,
being
that was
killed by youths who are on bail.
yeah.
Youths are committing stabbings, getting bail, and then committing murder.
Hmm.
You know, we have Dominic O'Brien was killed by an illegal immigrant who shouldn't have even been in the community, and he was killed. So the politicians have blood on their hands. This is the only thing that matters. If I had a disagreement with government on foreign policy, or perhaps we shouldn't give foreign aid to Tuvalu, 50 million for an undersea cable, okay, you can get over that. But when you have governments introducing policy that are taking people's lives and ruining lives with no repercussions, it's too much. We can't accept it.
Yeah, I mean, I've always advocated for a reform where the judges become culpable in releasing, clearly violent criminals back into society. I mean, if you have half a dozen or even a dozen arrests for violent crimes, and then you go out and commit another violent crime that results in, extreme injury or even worse, death, as we saw in Charlottesville in America recently, the judge should be on the hook for that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you know, I don't know how that could happen, but it seems purely logical from my standpoint, that the lawmaker or the law, the judges, the judiciary system is complicit.
Of course, this is. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the term "long march" through the institutions. So this has been generational in the making. It's been a softening of the judicial process. So we now have, for example, a man called Stephen Gageler, who's the
Hmm.
head of the High Court. Yeah, he
Yep.
presided, and then he then selects his the other members of the High Court. So they made a decision in November 2023 to release illegal illegal immigrants with criminal records into the community. So they've now released over 200 because
Hmm.
they said it was unlawful to keep people who shouldn't even be here in detention. They just said that was unlawful. So they released them into the community, and they've gone on to commit murder and rape. So
Yep.
they should be directly held responsible for that because, and I remember I was listening to 3AW one night, and there was two young girls on the radio whose mother was murdered by one of these illegal detainees who was released into the community, and they weren't even told where he was staying or when he was released. But so they're now in fear of their lives because Stephen Gagler decided that this man should be in the community. It's obscene.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
guys.
I
We got
totally agree.
sorry, mate. We got heaps of new speakers in hands now. So we'll keep it moving. Otherwise people
Thanks
get
for your
restless.
time.
No, you're right, mate. And great dialogue, great questions, great conversations so far tonight, guys. So it's been good. So who we had next? We had Matthew,
Yep, I think I'm
Paperclip,
next.
and then we had Noel, and then Mitchell just had his hand up, but it's gone back down. So you're up, Matt.
Yep, I think I caused feedback before because I'm not used to spaces, and I interrupted that guy who was talking about voting and paying fines and stuff. Sorry about that. But just quickly, yeah, I agree. All the judges should be disbarred if they release violent criminals back into society, and then those criminals go on to reoffend. So that's obvious. And I don't know. I generally think criminals in jail should be sort of like a free workforce. I don't know if we put them to work or not. I don't know, like making license plates or whatever, but we should do that. If we do that, I don't know. That's a comment. And then the stuff about, like we need a strong voice and all that shit. I don't know. I think we need right wing populism. I don't know if Hasty is that, but I saw a YouTube video today and it was suggesting that like Hasty could fork the party into a new Liberal Party. So if I was Hasty, I'd do that, I reckon, because then the guy, I can't remember, is it the National Socialist guy? He was saying that was Hasty the guy who blew the whistle on the SES chopping the hands off in Afghanistan? Was that correct?
Well, he threw Ben Roberts-Smith under the bus, yeah. So Hasty's no good.
Right. Yeah. Well, see, I haven't fully followed that, and I don't know all the details in the matter, and I was never in the military, so really my opinion doesn't matter. But if I was, I think if our troops are going around chopping off hands, I'd probably blow the whistle on that too. So I'd probably be hasty on that, but as I said, my opinion doesn't really matter. And then a lot of guys before we're talking about voting, so like you've got to have property to vote. Well, no one owns property anymore these days. It's all BlackRock and super funds. So we're all renters for life or living in a van or whatever. So, if you don't get to vote unless you got property, then it's only the elites. So, that has no legitimacy.
Yeah, well, as I've given my opinion on democracy and voting, so I have a slightly different perspective on it.
Yeah, and mostly, I was just going to chime in like ages ago because I interrupted the guy who was saying that he spent hundreds of dollars on voting fines, and I'll just bring it up. I looked it up because I was like, what the hell? Because I don't vote. I haven't voted in a while, like a long time. I voted ages ago. I was really kind of embarrassed to vote, but then I would just pay the $20 and not vote, and just pay the $20, not have to turn up. And he's like, no, I paid $200. So I looked it up on perplexity.ai. And in Victoria, they have to pay $102 not to vote. Queensland, $161 not to vote. Western Australia, $50, and then federal is still $20, which is what I thought it was. But so I didn't realize that you've got to pay sometimes $100, $160 not to vote. That's outrageous. Because like if I don't vote, right? So, but I turn up to vote because I don't want to pay $20. I still don't want to pay $20 because $20 to me these days it's like one potato or like two beers, so I don't want to lose the $20. So I turn up to vote, but then I still have to do the voting ritual. So you got to stand in line, and you got to tell them you don't want to vote, and then but they still make you vote. So you got to take the blank paper and then I don't even pretend to fill it in the little cardboard, box. You go to the cardboard booth and then
No, I understand all that, mate, and I understand
Yeah.
the frustrating with voting, but to me, I'm not really interested in whether we have to pay fines for voting because the system's got to be reformed.
Yeah.
So it's not a big issue to me about whether or not people pay fines for voting.
Well, I mean, to me, like, yeah, I want a non-vote, and the non-vote should count. And statistically, our votes don't matter anyway. So, I would put it this way. I would just say I would vote for any party that let me vote myself on my phone, and then so direct democracy, like you were saying before. That's all I had to say about that.
Yeah.
Cool.
All good.
All right, so we'll go to Noel, but I'll just say as well with the Ben Roberts-Smith thing is a pretty nuanced subject, and I've never served in the military, and I know you said you didn't either, which is fine, but you got to understand, and I've spoken with a lot of these Middle Eastern veterans what happened over there dealing with these savage radical Islamic extremists, some of them who are pedophiles, they abuse children. Not to say that it's justified doing, sure, some of the photos and some of the shit, but when you're out there and you're in that atmosphere and you're dealing with these savage, evil people, there's got to be some kind of free pass there. Like these blokes, Australian patriots, they fought for this country, and they command some respect there. Anyway, we'll go to Noel, unless you wanted to quickly respond to that paperclip, Matthew.
Not really.
But
I think it's a war. I think it's a war crime, though. I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can chop body parts off. It's weird. I think it's weird. I never served. I never put my life on the line. So full respect to them. But yeah, I mean, I'd blow the whistle on that. But also on the other hand, I don't blame the soldiers for doing crazy things like this because they were fighting a losing war. They were fighting against 13th century farmers. With our 21st century warriors trying to fight a losing war against these guys who it wasn't really fair. I blame the commanders. I don't blame the soldiers themselves. But like I said, I would have blown the whistle on that, I reckon, hand chopping.
Well, we don't know, mate. No one knows what happened in the dark hills of Afghanistan. You've got men out there who are prepared to die because, and I'm not going to judge them, mate. You've got men out there. Have a look what Ben Roberts-Smith did, mate. And who are we to say whether or not he committed a war crime? Fuck them, mate. The guy's a hero.
True. You're probably right. Absolutely. You're probably right. I don't know enough about it, and I really shouldn't comment. So absolutely, I agree.
Right. Hello. I just wanted to say real quick before I got into it is that Ben Roberts-Smith's an absolute legend, and anyone that speaks down on him should get the fuck out of Australia because he literally fought for our country. He served for our people. Who cares what he did overseas in Afghanistan, to be quite honest? He could have bloody done 10 times worse and I would still back him because at the end of the day, he's over there representing us and fighting for us. But anyways, I just want to say a quick solution to all of the problems being raised is to back White Australia. And I also just wanted to say that, Lozzie, you're a grifter, you're a whore, and you
Let's not
should
get
go fuck
personal. I
yourself.
don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, look,
Come on, we're not making it personal. We're not making it personal, guys. Come on.
yeah, look, free speech is for everyone, but we don't need to get nasty. Like let's stick to the topic. Before we go to Mitchell, Jesse, I'm putting Bob to bed, so you guys dead set, and Jesse, you're in charge. I'll be back shortly.
Yeah, we'll watch it. Mitchell, go ahead.
All right, here we go. I was just wondering, when it comes to the march, like I just want to know in regards to it, what's like the ultimate purpose of it, as in what is the goal and how will it be achieved realistically? Like where's it headed, to make it a reality? Because from my perspective, I only see a republic as the answer because this system is it's too broken. Just look at Canada, look at England, look at Australia, this Westminster system, it's just not working anymore.
Yeah, and we've been discussing that most of the night. I think I've made my position clear. The system's broken. I'm trying to build something outside the system. For me, the aim of March for Australia is to raise awareness, to give people a blow-off valve, to feel like a sense of community, a sense of identity, and to hopefully just keep slowly building something that will eventually be able to have some influence on, the future of this country. There's no silver bullet. There's no easy fix to this. I think we understand that, and I'm probably, I've been around quite a long time, and I've seen the abject failure of democracy my whole life, and I've been disgusted my whole life. And it comes to a point where it's intolerable, and I had the choice to sit back and just watch it burn, or to try and get involved and do something. And whether or not that's going to be successful is something only time will tell. But for me, the March for Australia is a great initiative to get like-minded people together and to hopefully get them motivated to become active and put some resources into it.
So,
No, I agree with that.
just before I go, I just want to add something to that as well. So a lot of people have said, like, what's the end objective of the marches and everything? March for Australia will always only protest the one thing, and in this case and scenario, it will always be ending mass immigration and protecting heritage, culture, and way of life. The last one, most people look at and say, well, what did it do? It brought tens of thousands of Australians together into the one spot. It gave them confidence to know that they could then speak out about what they're not happy about in our country. It started hectic amounts of conversations in Parliament, in media, to the point that media has now freaked out this time around and put a block on anything to do with March for Australia until after the march, we've been told. So, yeah, end objective is to end mass immigration. But obviously, we're not expecting 20,000 people in each state to do that. So, yeah, to increase our numbers, create community, surrounded by like-minded people, and get those conversations going in Parliament. I know that a lot of people here don't believe that there is a political solution, but it does at least get the conversations going, even in Parliament, because lots of people that are sitting at home do watch the Parliament conversations and debates. And I think that it's all, moving towards waking people up.
Yeah, it's starting conversations. So it's a good thing.
No, I agree with that because I believe what you were saying earlier about you need to hit that critical mass of people, and that can only happen with marches like this, bringing more awareness, just because it's the only way, because I've always just banged on about the Republic, because when I think about every problem, immigration, every single problem, it's always the government, and unless there's extreme amount of pressure on them, or unless they change fundamentally, it'll never ever change. Because I believe we live in a pseudo democracy, because these parties, they choose the leaders amongst themselves. We don't choose these people; they all choose amongst themselves, and then they stick them in front of us, and we have a choice. No, we don't have a choice.
Exactly. It's a closed shop. And as I said earlier, if we end up getting good people, people who can actually build something in Parliament, then perhaps we'll change. The current political class, again, they're the least capable amongst us. It's, when every time I turn on television and Jacinta Allen's telling me something, or there's, it's just insane. Fatima Payman believes she's got the right to control my children's future. Fuck that.
No, they are nothing but parasites. That's what I look at them as. They take our money and they give themselves pay rise. Everyone else suffers. They're just parasites.
Yep, 100%. And that's what we've got to change. But we either sit back and watch it burn and wait. I know there's one train of thought. It's beyond redemption. We'll wait for the crash. I'm sort of going the other way to try and build something until the reset comes. I want somewhere for people to go that is outside the system, not a political party, not a union, just a group of like-minded individuals who are obviously, we're never going to get broad support across the whole community because it's, politics is so divisive. But if we get enough, we can perhaps start putting pressure on. And we need people with resources. We need people who are prepared to risk something, whether it's, and put some, whether it's a financial support or whatever it is. We need people to support us. And if it's not my movement, there are other movements out there. Find someone that represents your worldview, support them. And if there's no one that resonates with you, start something. Just do something.
I agree with that. There's enough people that we have enough common interest and enough common sense. Just the things that we all want crime to go down. We all want taxes to go down. We all want the lobbying to stop. But there's certain things we all want, and I think we need. Well, the only way it could really happen, because it can't, like a republic can't go through the government. It needs to be done by people like us. It needs to be people who come together, leaders amongst communities, amongst Australians, who are intelligent enough to put framework down. And you obviously have to get enough people to agree with all the points, but something that a majority of us are happy with, that could actually go forward on a vote to change the entire thing. Because otherwise, I just don't. That's the only solutional idea I've come up with.
Yeah, currently there is no solution, so we have to try and find a solution. Whatever that may be.
That's what I'm saying. I believe it's that. Make a framework. Everyone agrees. Once enough Australians agree and say, no, this is right. I prefer this would be the better system. Like you said, if you have a good system, then that's the system. If enough people come together for an idea, then that should be the idea.
Yep. Where good people become leaders in. We need a system. We need good people, respectable people. I have absolutely no respect for Albanese, Jacinta Allen, Daniel Andrews, none of them. I don't respect any of them. I don't want them controlling our children's future because they don't have the capacity to do it. And that's, unfortunately, that's being played out by our, everything's regressing. We're living shorter lives. As a society, we're fatter, we're sicker. You've got 16% of children on the NDIS. You've got 1/3 of Australians who have got a neurological disorder. You've got a financial crisis. You've got an education crisis. The healthcare system is broken. Everything that is important is regressing. And now they're going to push for this digital ID, which is a huge issue. But the biggest issue we have to get under control is the system itself. We have to get rid of them. And the biggest issue overarching all that is the demographics of the country, because if they keep importing people, it makes it harder and harder to return to a system that respects our people, the founding stock of this country.
100%. I'll let someone else have a turn. I don't want to take up too much time. So thank you for letting me speak, you guys.
Cheers.
All good. Thanks. We'll go. I think it was Valhalla, and I don't know. Sydney has got his hand up again, so yeah, we'll go back to Sydney. And I'll just while I got yous, we do have the Melbourne organizer up here, guys, and as Beck said earlier, there was lots of questions about Melbourne, and so guys, come up, don't be afraid. We're not going to bite. Request a mic. Any questions? Come up. Matt's happy to answer. I'm happy to answer. So yeah, anyone who wants to come up, come up. We'll go to Valhalla and then Sydney, and then Liam's got his hand up again too.
Yeah, g'day. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, just wanted to. I know you guys have already addressed this for the Sydney rally. That there will be some speakers allowed to come up and you know, share some thoughts and words about immigration and how they feel that it's affecting Australia. Would the same be said for Melbourne as well? That we could have some speakers come up and yeah, say a few words.
At the moment, we don't. We're not going to have an open mic. I've got designated speakers, which is sort of locked in. So that's not a plan for Melbourne at this stage. No.
No, that's all right. I'll finish off by saying to anyone that would be in Sydney or the other places that do have open mics, you know, give a bit of thought and consideration to just all the myriad of ways in which mass immigration can affect Australia. So whether it's the national level, the state level, your communities, whether it's education, economics and everything else. Give it some detailed thought and, present it well. It's not just like one area in which we are affected, it's many areas. So, that might help some people understand why we're out there and, marching and why we're out there and we give a shit about how much immigration affects our country. Because, some people might just think, oh, it's like a racist bigot thing. No. There's the numbers thing, there's the cultural makeup of the country, there's the economics, the hospital systems, the education system, even something basic in the education system where, we start changing the way that we educate our children to incorporate other people and other ideologies, that starts becoming a bit of a slippery slope as well, and then start speaking different languages at schools. And it's sort of like, well, no, that's not what we want. That's not what we want as a country. We have English as our main language. We're not willing to incorporate other foreign languages into our schools, and make them predominant. So, that's just one basic example. But anyways, I'm sure you guys could think of many more things to say and come up with. And then, you can share these ideas with your friends, families and co-workers and just, get the message out there. As you're talking about, awareness is the key to, awakening the people up to just how big of an issue this thing is. Thanks.
No worries. Cheers. That's the biggest issue we've ever faced, by far.
Yeah, spot on, mate. And look, obviously we can't control things along the lines of obviously the police will take care of if someone brings a banner that's explicitly inciting violence or something crazy like that. I'm sure the police will take care of it. But people bring their own banners and signs with their own message. I saw lots like "Make Albo Go Away" and all sorts of stuff like that. So people can, and it will naturally happen, people can bring their own signs with their own messaging to this rally. So people can hand out their own flyers. I saw lots of different people handing out flyers. I saw, Christians handing out their flyers. I saw, people, I'm not sure if they're flat earthers, but people along those sort of lines, like all kinds of different people go out and push their agendas. And so there's plenty of ways you can get that message across in a big crowd like that, and you can't really stop that from happening in a public place. But in terms of who gets up on stage, especially the designated speakers are obviously specifically chosen, but the states that are doing open mic, which I'm at this stage, I think it may just be Sydney, and that's just mine and Beck's personal ideology on free speech, and we like the idea of open mics because we've gone into this, both of us, but I personally like it because I've been to rallies where I've been shut out from speaking before, and I've been quite upset about that when I've had something to say. So yeah, I'm kind of a free speech absolutist. If someone has something to say on the matter, I think they should be able to say it if they're first in line. And the rules are basically you got to agree to keep the messaging on topic. You can't go up there and start talking about flat earth or this sovereign stuff or you got to agree to stay on topic with the messaging, which is stop mass immigration,